We have a few questions here. Some of the questions I'd answered earlier. So just answer a few questions first, and then we'll just have some questions from the floor if there are any. First question is, can Ajahn Brahm recommend some other meditation teachers in Thailand who are not too strict? I learned that stressful meditation does not work for me, and I cannot meditate with a tired mind and body. Exactly. But unfortunately, there's such a long time since I travelled around Thailand. Whenever I come here, I always just give the talks. So really, I've been out of touch with meditation teachers in Thailand who are not too strict. But there's a few Thai people here. People like Dirayupa, maybe Suwadi. Maybe you can ask them, because they probably know more about Thai than I know. So basically, I don't know. Will Ajahn Brahm ordain more bhikkhunis in Perth? I support bhikkhuni ordination. Yes, of course, we will do more bhikkhuni ordinations, but I never have ordained any bhikkhunis. It's only another nun can ordain a bhikkhuni. So I was only just organising it and being part of the second part of the ceremony, which is just the confirmation of the first ceremony done by bhikkhunis. But certainly I continue to support that. More bhikkhuni ordinations have happened in Perth, and they will continue to happen in Perth. Again, the biggest problem now, and Ananji will be talking about that later on, is actually to get places for the bhikkhunis to stay, and also to give them a good training. So it's not just ordaining people, they've got to have a place to stay and meditate, they need facilities, which is why the Anji keeps on giving me these cushions to sit on, because they'll be auctioned at the end of the retreat. One more way of raising a few dollars here and there for the Dharmasala Nuns Monastery. And again, I must admit, I don't mind actually saying this. I can never really say if I need any money for my projects, because I just can't do that. It's just inside of me never to ask. That's been brainwashed into me by Ajahn Chah. Other people's projects, yes. But this is another person's project, it's Dharmasala Nuns Monastery. I've seen so much money going into temples where there's so many chandeliers and gold, and just where they've got big Buddha statues, and that's all they ever do there, just bow down to the Buddha statues or Kuan Yin or Maitreya. What really upset me was when I went to Medan in Indonesia in March, and I saw the biggest temple in Southeast Asia. It was dedicated to Maitreya, and it was huge. It must have cost $1 billion. And I thought, what a waste. It's just a temple to a Buddha who would come when all of us are well and dead, and that temple would have crumbled to dust by the time Maitreya comes. It's a total waste of money, where there are currently women wanting to ordain, a huge waiting list for Dharmasala, and they have to keep saying no because there's no facilities there. I don't know why it is that people think that by building stupas or by building Buddha statues you get more merit. But the truth of the matter is, and this is in the Dakkhana Vibhanga Sutta, straight from the word of the Buddha, the most merit you could ever get once the Buddha, the most merit you could ever get was giving a donation to both Sanghas with the Buddha at the head. The Bhikkhuni Sangha and Bhikkhu Sangha with the Buddha at the head. He said that's the biggest donation you can ever give. That's much more merit than giving to an Arahat or even giving to the Buddha. Giving to the two Sanghas with the Buddha at the head. And he said once the Buddha passed away, then the biggest merit you could ever get, for they say in the West, the most bang for your bucks as donations is to give to both Sanghas, Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni Sangha. Thailand does not have that opportunity to make the highest merit. Actually it does, but not officially. There's many bhikkhunis here. Australia has. It's gone way above places like Burma in giving lay people the highest opportunity to make merit by having a bhikkhuni sangha there, as well as a bhikkhu sangha. That is straight from the word of the Buddha. That's more merit than giving to an arahat. I know in Thailand you only want to give to those monks who go around saying they're arahats, so it's got a reputation of being totally enlightened. But the truth of the matter is, you get more merit by giving to bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, the sangha. That's why we never have any personal funds as monks in our tradition. All the funds are for sangha. A lot of it for building these facilities. So we're trying to do that, but sometimes it's tough. Sometimes some of these monasteries, even here in Thailand, get these huge katinas and papas and thousands of, sometimes, how many some of these papas and katinas are here in Thailand? 10 million baht, 20 million baht, that's almost $1 billion. What do they use it for? Building these huge, uposita halls, where they're only a day people for 3 days, or 4 days, or 5 days. And there's really active monasteries in places like Perth, which are really struggling just to get a place where nuns can stay. Well, I don't mind saying that's where the money will get the most merit. Dear Ajahn, but I don't get any benefit out of that. In fact, I get even more headaches. The more nuns over there, the more problems I have. That's being honest with you, but it needs to be done, because I've got a lot of faith. Dear Ajahn, should we aim at mending all our relationships, or should we let go of those that appear hopeless? For the next 3 or 4 days, let go of the hopeless relationships and even the good relationships. So we're not talking about relationships in the next 3 or 4 days. What is the meaning of the name Jhana Grove, which is a new retreat? The word grove in Pali is Vana, and you have that Jeta Vana, which is the Jeta Grove. You've got the Vela the bamboo grove. This is just a common name for monasteries in the time of the Buddha, to call it grove or forest. And many places they call themselves forests and groves, but there's no forest there at all. They just use the name. But Jhana Grove is a forest. Many of you have been there. And jhana just means the result of meditation, the meditation which the Buddha recommended. So that was actually suggested by Ajahn Brahm, not by me, but I really loved it. So everyone voted for it and it became known as Jhana Grove. Buddhism talks about no killing, but why is vegetarian not a necessary part of practice? Because even if you're a vegetarian, it involves killing. As I found out that when you were in northeast Thailand, and actually were there at the beginning of the process of creating food, and to see just how many animals were killed just by ploughing the field to plant the rice. And just even vegetables, how many animals, insects, stuff actually just die just because for your durian which you eat. So basically that what you can't get out of it no matter what you eat. Every grain of rice you eat is a result of, contains some people's death. At least some sort of animal's death. Transporting it to the markets, sometimes they use pesticides as well. So we try and limit our killing as best we possibly can. And that's why the Buddha said, especially for the Sangha, so it's so difficult to do that as a monk or a nun, as I've made many stories about that. So it's much more important to limit the killing. That's our goal, to limit it as little as possible. And at the same time, to make sure you make use of every grain of rice, or today every potato chip which you eat, to make sure you don't waste that food. You make best use out of it by keeping your precepts, being kind, being generous, being peaceful. The food comes with a cost. So remember, the Buddha actually said, if you're not a stream winner, that you don't really, that you're a debtor. He told this to the monks and nuns. Everyone who's not a stream winner, monks and nuns, you eat this food as a debtor. And you don't really deserve it. When it's given to you, you can pay back later. If you're a stream winner, you eat the food as part of your inheritance. Only if you're an arahant, you eat the country's armed food as an owner of it. Very, very powerful teachings. It makes me really think sometimes. Okay, so those are some of the questions here. I just put them very briefly, unless they're meditation questions. So that basket will be out there during the day. If you have a question, please write it down on the piece of paper and it will be answered in the evening. But please keep it to meditation or Dhamma questions. There's no more relationship questions or vegetarian questions. There's another time and place to ask those questions. But this is really want to focus on meditation. If we start talking about these things, you start thinking about relationships or vegetarians or issues without gays or euthanasia and stuff like that, which is very interesting. But really it blurs the focus of what we're supposed to be doing here for the 3 days. Let's keep it on meditation, 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 or Dhamma. but not about these superficial issues. Okay, are there any questions on the floor about meditation? Yes?
If meditation means stillness, so how about kasina meditation or days meditation? It seems that we are kind of concentrate on one particular object or one particular concept.
Okay, you're asking the question about if meditation means stillness. What about that famous method of meditation called kasina meditation? For those of you who don't know what kasina meditation is, it's one of the subjects of meditation taught by the Buddha, but he didn't really encourage it that much. This method of meditation which he kept on encouraging was anapanasati, meditation on the breath. So you don't really find much about kasina meditation in the original teachings of the Buddha. But what it actually is being able to visualize a simple object as a way of getting to the stage we call nimittas in meditation. So usually you have a piece of cardboard with a circular image painted in just one simple colour. Now they've got the colours which are in the Visuddhimagga. Well, it doesn't have to be that. Your favourite colour, basically. Maybe it's a very, very light blue, which is a very common one, or white, or some other colour which you really feel an affinity for. And what you do, you visualise that, or you look at it first of all, and then you close your eyes so you can keep it in your mind's eye without actually seeing it. When it fades away, you open your eyes again until you can hold the image in your mind without looking at it. And then you hold that image of this circular disc, which is now painted of cardboard thing. You can hold it in your mind until it stays there. And when it stays there, it turns into one of these real nimittas, these bright lights you see in the mind. It's just one way of developing that bright light. Not many people do that because they concentrate. And they find, yes, they can hold that light, but the mind is too stiff to turn into a real nimitta. So they find it, yes, they can get so far, but they can't go all the way because it's too much force. The real way to do that, again, is the same way you meditate on the bed. So look at that image and make the mind perfectly still. Don't think, don't do anything. And rest the mind. And then when you close your eyes, because you're resting the mind, you're not working, you're not concentrating, you're being still. It stays a long time. It's amazing that people feel they can attain things by working hard. So there's many things in life, the spiritual things in life, you attain by being still. Totally different. Another point which many of you should understand, the people who work hard and put lots of effort in anything because they want to get big egos. It's the effort which builds up the sense of self and ego. You find out people with big egos have enormous willpower. And there's something, I saw this, there's some disconnect there. How can you have to work hard to get enlightened when there's no self? Who's doing the work? In the end, it made very clear that it was actually doing all that craving and struggling is actually what creates this thing you understand as the ego. That's why people, there's many people in this world, they've been successful, you've been successful in many things you've done. Most people who've been really successful in life, they have a big ego. And you know that, because it's the effort that's created that ego. When you really let go and be still, you haven't got any ego anymore. You just relax and be peaceful. So that's the connect. That's what creates the ego, craving, wanting, effort. Okay, I'm not holding back here, I'm giving you some powerful insights.
So, next question. So what is the meaning of right effort?
What is the meaning of right effort? Is stop. It is the effort which creates the mindfulness, which creates the stillness. There is a sequence for the Eightfold Path. It's only mentioned in the Anguttara Nikaya, but it's there. It's that right effort which produces right mindfulness, and the right mindfulness which produces right samadhi, and the right samadhi which produces seeing things as they truly are. There's a causal sequence there. What is the effort which creates mindfulness? One of these great questions, because people in the West understand that mindfulness is an important part of meditation. It's been emphasized much more than stillness. Be mindful. But no one really explains to people how to be mindful. So people put this effort, they struggle and control to try and be mindful, and they always fail, and they get frustrated. Whereas you find it is just doing nothing which creates mindfulness. If you haven't heard this teaching before, I emphasized this earlier this week. The two halves of the mind. The first half of the mind is the active part of the mind. I just called it the doer. In Pali, sankhara. It's active, it creates, it thinks, it presses the button on its whatever you've got down there to take notes. It scratches the nose. That's called the doer. That's the active part of the mind. That takes up the major part of your mental energy. All goes into doing, reacting. The other part of the mind is the knower, mindfulness, just bare consciousness. And because in this meditation you stop the doing, that is your right effort. Stop doing things. And when you stop doing things, the energy, the natural energy of your mind goes into knowing rather than doing. You get more aware. Your mindfulness increases. It becomes powerful. And then you realize from your own experience, this is how you generate mindfulness. By allowing the energy to go into knowing and stopping it going into doing. That is your effort. To let go. To let things be. To be content. Just to sit there. Be in the present moment. That is the effort. It's an effort to stop doing things. And if you understand that, you understand how the mindfulness gets generated and why right effort leads to right mindfulness. Now I coin the words power mindfulness and superpower mindfulness because that's what it feels like. You know, you feel like you're mindful, you're aware. You're all aware now, aren't you? You've only got a fraction of power in your mindfulness. When you really get into this meditation, wow, you really feel awake. Like you've had a cup of coffee, but instead of the coffee which makes you shake, which is not sort of very peaceful energy, this is very peaceful energy which you can focus so easily. But it's still got that really sharp awareness which you get from coffee. Now, multiply that by 10 or 100 or 1,000, you understand what superpower mindfulness is like. You really are totally alert. And that's important for meditation, because one of the problems with meditation at the beginning is you're not mindful enough to see what you're doing. Literally, you're walking in the dark. It's a bit of hit and miss whether you go in the right direction, you let it go. Because a lot of times, beginning of meditation, the mindfulness is not strong enough, so you are actually doing things, but you don't realize it, you don't see it. But as the mindfulness increases, you can actually have more understanding, more clarity of what's actually going on in your mind. It makes it much easier to stop doing things and craving and wanting. You literally see that happening. As I mentioned earlier to many people, a common question is, when I'm meditating, a thought comes into my mind. It just comes by itself. I don't know where it came from. I didn't try and think, it just comes by itself. That shows you haven't got the superpower mindfulness. If you had superpower mindfulness, you would see what I saw. No. I go out to get those thoughts. I send my mind out to bring thoughts in. They don't come by themselves. I go and bring them in because I want them. Ordinary mindfulness can't see that. When your mindfulness gets very strong, you can see that very clearly. Then you understand I'm not going to do that anymore. So thoughts don't come into your head, because you don't go looking for them. This is the superpower mindfulness area. When you go into that zone, you can see amazing things, what goes on in your head. You can understand why this is insight. Because your mindfulness has got very strong, you see much deeply, much more, you understand what is necessary for insight. You really need incredibly powerful mindfulness. You really see so deep clearly. It's like turning up the lights in the room. These lights are dimmed right now. Imagine multiplying their intensity by 10, and then by 100, and 1,000. It's amazing. The more light, the more you can see in that carpet. This is actually what you start to see. So that's what happens with meditation. The mindfulness increases. It's the effort which really gives rise to superpower mindfulness. The other thing with superpower mindfulness is not just fun. You start to see weird things you haven't seen before. They've always been there. You've been too dull to see them. Superpower mindfulness is also associated with super happiness, which is a nice thing which people really like. It's not just weird. You're having a wonderful time. In the same way that some people, when they wake up in the morning, it's a waste of time talking to them until they've had their first cup of coffee or tea. I remember my father used to be like that. The first thing he did when he woke up in the morning was have a cup of tea. And only when he had his cup of tea and the caffeine started to flow through his veins could you actually talk to him and ask him the question. Otherwise he's like a zombie before that. But especially if you give him 2 or 3 cups of tea, then he started getting happier and happier. Just like you. So I noticed that there's some connection between mental energy and happiness. You see that with caffeine and other stimulants. But this is a natural energy of the mind and it's natural happiness. The more mindfulness, the more happiness. And that's a beautiful thing to experience. You're going around just one happy little chappy. People call you an idiot and you just can't help but laugh your head off. So funny. In other words, you just can't get upset. You've just got too much happiness with you. And that keeps on going stronger and stronger. It's a byproduct of very powerful mindfulness. Are there any other questions about meditation from the floor? Okay, we'll stop there, because now let's do a meditation. It's 9:30, so we do a meditation for half an hour. There are people here who've just come and maybe come from a long way, they're tired of traffic. So 1 half an hour meditation. Before I was doing a lot of guidance. Now I'm only going to guide the first few minutes and then off you go. So here we go. Sitting here, this is your opportunities to meditate. Maybe for many lifetimes you've been looking for these opportunities. So please don't waste this time. Preparation, careful preparation, is important for any venture or any activity. You should notice the amount of preparation people like Anchin and Shirley and the other helpers of the BF did to arrange this retreat. Huge amounts of preparation and ongoing work. That's why it's successful. Same with your meditation. If you want your meditation to be successful, prepare your body first of all. You don't have to sit on the floor. Chairs are fine. Lean against the wall. You can use as many cushions as you can find in this hotel, as many. Please be kind to your body. Keep mindfulness of your own body. until it relaxes. Only when the body is relaxed, only then let the body go. Go to the mind, your mental world, to let go of the past and the future, so you can't do things, so you can build up the power of mindfulness. arrows at the end of the meditation now. So please count 3 breaths, in out, in out, in out. At the end of the 3rd breath, at the end of the 3rd breath, open your eyes to end the meditation. I wish everybody a good night's sleep. The next session is 6:30 to 7:30. Come before if you wish. But especially those who just come, please have a nice, quiet night's sleep tonight. And see you in the morning.